Hey guys, Crafty here from Living in Beta, and today we'll be showcasing our top iconic melee weapons in Cyberpunk 2077. As you all know, if you've followed us for a while now, my main character in Cyberpunk is melee focused, more specifically blade focused, and I really like the different variety this type of build can give you from encounter to encounter. Even more recently, with patch 1.3 dropping, I've been working through a blunt weapon based build as well, and that gives me just as much joy, to be honest. There's just something about slicing and dicing your enemies like Blade on a vampire killing spree, or hitting them for 6 like 2016 Negan with your own version of USEAL, you know? Now of course, there is much more than just blades and bats to wield on your travels throughout Night City, so we thought it'd be good to showcase the different types of iconic weapons you can obtain, where they reside, how to get them, and how they perform in combat. I think at this point as well, once again, it's important to mention that the info you see in this video is based purely on our opinions, so don't worry too much. Well, purely on my opinion, so flame me if you need to. If you disagree, that's totally fine. Let's have an adult convo in the comments about it. But that being said, the money jar towards the Living in Beta tissues is growing, so it's a win-win all round, really. As always, if there is a specific thing you're looking for, the timestamps will be in the description, and the handy video chapters will be displayed on the video timeline for you to navigate through. This one's going to be a fun one. Really enjoyed making it, so let's get into it. Oh, PS, spoilers ahead. So the first weapon on our list today brings us to the end of the prologue missions in Cyberpunk 2077. To cut a fairly long story short, essentially you and your good friend Jackie have made it your life's goal to become famous in the underground realms of Night City and become legends etched in its history, not forgetting the opportunity for your own drink in the afterlife. The journey towards this leads you into the tainted hands of a well-known fixer named Dexter Deschamps, who has returned to Night City after a 2-year or so hiatus. His aim is to obtain a very lucrative bit of tech that sits at the summit of Arasaka Tower in the hands of the Arasaka family themselves. After various side quests to obtain vital parts to execute the plan, including a very nice chat with our mate Royce and some very eye-opening BD exploration with Miss Parker, you finally embark on trying to obtain the item in question. This then leads you into Yorinobu's penthouse, where you witness the biggest betrayal since Tony Stark puts a target on Captain America's back in Civil War, or Falcon gets Cap's shield. And from this point, we get to obtain the weapon. After T-Bug manages to open the doors for your escape, you weirdly decide to turn around, go up the stairs in the penthouse, open a door, make your way to the helipad, dispatch the guards, and grab yourself the mighty Satori, which, by the way, in Japanese means comprehension or understanding. But tell that to my enemies, am I right? Now let's take a look at why the Satori is worth getting in your playthrough. As I said at the start of the video, my main character here is very much blade focused, but I obviously always carry weapons, but it's very much focused on the blade, and I use the Satori all the time, to be honest. And the main benefit for it is the massive crit damage it brings. You can see there in the white writing down below, deals massive crit hit damage but reduces that base damage by 20%. So you'll see this versus other blades, this may have less damage or less DPS, but you can see here with all my multipliers on this character, I've got 547% crit damage, which is mental with a 25% crit chance. So, you know, 1 in 4 chances to crit, and it literally blows people up. Just to showcase how it is, I'm playing on hard difficulty right now, and we're in Classic Pacifica, and it is a one-shot hit. I know I'm at level 50 right now with the crit damage, but it really is an amazing blade to obtain. I mean, if you think about the fact that you can get it instantly, well, not instantly, but at the end of Act 1, going into Act 2 when the game really does open up, if you've been focusing on blades the whole time, this really will be the kind of blade for the whole playthrough. I've not used a different blade since, so fully recommend it. Get your hands on it. But I just want to mention as well that it used to be a glitch to get into Arasaka Tower after the mission to obtain the blade. But after multiple tries for myself, I haven't been able to use the car open door glitch to get through the gate. Let me know in the comments below if it's still doable, though in my opinion I've not managed to get it to happen, so I think the only way to obtain this blade right now is on a fresh playthrough. But yeah, let's move on to the next one. Our next weapon on this list brings us to the Ripper Doc we all know and love, Mr. Fingers. Now it's important to note, this weapon can only be obtained when on the quest named the space in between. I've tried to go back after and it doesn't seem to be there because you're not able to get into the room we need to get into. And it goes without saying as well, once again, like I always say when we speak about fingers, I'm sorry, but we cannot beat this man up yet. No matter what you do, do not own him. Now, the reason for visiting Fingers is to try and obtain some more info on the whereabouts of Evelyn Parker after her disappearance at the start of Act 2. It was found through previous findings that she may have headed over to Fingers to get fixed up after an altercation at her late night residence, Le Clouds, a strip club to you and me. Once at Fingers' place of residence, we begin to interrogate him for info on Evelyn's whereabouts, and after some sweet talking, he brings us into his back room. I wouldn't really call it sweet talking, but you know, after some conversation. When entering it, you take a left, and over on the table will be a unique weapon named Cottonmouth, just what we came here for. From that point on, continue to chat to Fingers, doing what you wish, but remember, he has some pretty amazing cyberware to purchase, so don't go knocking him out anytime soon. Now, as melee weapons go, this is one of the most unique looking weapons you'll see in the game. As you can see here, it's more of a walking stick with extra attachments. And when you look at the stats itself, you're coming in with a blunt weapon, of course, with different types of damage on it that cover almost all areas. So you've got that electrical damage, you've got that chemical damage, poison and shock. That's very, very unique compared to most weapons in its kind of category. As you see in the little white text there, electrically charged and tipped with venom, it deals electrical and chemical damage, small chance to apply poison and or shock. Bear in mind, this is a level 20 character. Yes, I'm stacked up into body and those melee build blunt weapon attributes, but still, this is kind of the base you'll get on the Cottonmouth, which is, you know, very awesome to start with. In terms of using it in a fight, it's just awesome to hit someone with a stick. As you can see here, not that high of a level, but just strong attacks right now are just one banging people left, right, and center. Classic. Very good to use, very fun to use, and definitely going to be one of my go-to weapons on this blunt build because of, you know, it's my first time using a blunt weapon build, so I'm excited to get my hands on this weapon. But yeah, that's the Cottonmouth. Shout out to Fingers for giving us this one. Now he hasn't got his walking stick. What's he going to do? Who knows? Let's move on to the next one. Now, I was reluctant to throw in another katana into the list, as when we use the word iconic, katanas don't always offer much in terms of visuals, but with this one, the mini quest itself makes obtaining the weapon well worth it. So to kick off getting this weapon, you need to have done Act 1, and then you need to visit Afterlife for the first time after finishing Act 1. Or you could do as I do and start the quest when you're already on the quest Ghost Town, and where you speak to Rogue in the Afterlife, and those two kind of tie together. Just outside her booth, there is a geezer standing there smoking and looking a little sketchy, kind of ushering you over there to speak to him. The name of this legend is Dennis Cranmer, which, fun fact, is also the name of an important dwarf in the Witcher lore, and has a Gwent card in Witcher 3, which is pretty cool. That's CD Projekt Red once again merging their properties. From here, he begins to tell you a very vague story about needing help with some sort of package and send you to a location to pick up said package. When arriving, you find yourself in the slum of the outskirts of Kabuki, looking through shanty houses for a container, which looks like some random fridge, to be honest, with a specific phrase marked by Dennis himself. Once found, an Asian gentleman falls out, and that really adds to the drama of the whole situation. Using your wits, you carry the guy out of the slum, past all the tiger claws, placing him in the trunk of his car and driving all the way back to our boy Dennis. Once there, the reward is given to us in the form of a new katana named the Scalpel. It's also cool to note that if you ask the right questions in the side options, the man will tell you a story that mirrors that of one of the warehouse workers, Hide, in the American Office series that you may have watched. It's a nice little Easter egg. Shout out to CD Projekt Red for this one. They've put a couple of Easter eggs in this quest line, and it really adds to the enjoyment of the game. I mentioned about not having many katanas on the list if we can help it, but this one I think visually really does add something, you know, to your character. You can see that light blue kind of bright handle with that kind of carbon fiber shaft, which really is like an anime look in my opinion, and adds to the aesthetic of Cyberpunk 2077. And the weapon itself does bring some benefits. So you have that increased electrical damage out of the box, but also using a cyberware cyber deck named Scandivistan, for want of a better pronunciation. When that's active, increase the crit chance by 50% and it implies bleeding, which is very, very good. And the stats you see here on a character that isn't focused on blades, it's just got that melee damage increase. The weapon itself, even in the game, really does look cool, as you can see here, almost cartoony and anime-like, as I said, so it's really beneficial, and it still does do bits, to be honest. As long as if you're speccing into a blade character, it's obviously going to be great, but in general, it's just fun to use and a good one to have, I think. More importantly, just a good quest to do. It really highlights what CD Projekt Red wanted to try and do with Cyberpunk, and those little Easter eggs are not something they have to put in the game, but it's great to do anyway, so yeah. That's the Scalpel. Let's move on to the next one. Now for this one, we're not going to go through any spoilers on the mission. One, because it's a cool mission to take part in, and two, this weapon can be obtained after the mission if you miss it or forget it even exists. All you need to know is that the weapon will be obtainable during this quest's second conflict, which is the end of the line quests where you help Johnny get his band, the Samurai, back together for one last gig. The mission itself will take you to a building up here on the Westbrook area of Night City, the top right, more importantly Norfolk, where the posh people live, the closest fast travel point being Arasaka Estate, and you're looking to get to this building here. This is actually owned by one of the band members of the Samurai, or ex-band members of the Samurai, because they are no longer together. Spoilers, Johnny died. Anyway, once you land, you of course have this building here. Now in the mission, you'll be taken around the side and the gate will be open and you'll be able to get in. The mission's very funny. Again, I'm not going to spoil it, but it's a very interesting mission. But for now, if you haven't picked it up or didn't realize it was there, you can hop the fence and go back to the location, and the golden baseball bat will be found in the pool where it was in the mission itself. So yeah, a gold-plated baseball bat. Why is that beneficial? Well, let me show you. Now I know what you're thinking, Crafty. Why is a gold-plated baseball bat unique or iconic in the melee weapon category? Well, look at it. One, the first thing, it's a gold baseball bat, and secondly, it's got some mad screws coming out the end of it, which really adds to the pain it's going to cause. And when you look at it in general, if that's not an iconic piece, walking down the street with that, people will not only be scared but also intrigued and wonder how much money you've got on you, right? Now, the gold-plated baseball bat itself obviously does have some iconic wording on it as well. It says here in the white, infused with Denny's Rage, high chance to apply bleeding, low chance to apply stun. That's a shout out to the mission that you do that makes you available to obtain this weapon. Again, no spoilers, but that's a cool little nod to that. And that big physical damage and big, more importantly, bleeding chance with high crit damage as well is very, very lethal. And again, this is on a character that's spec'd into blades, not blunt weapons, so there's not much in terms of boosted multipliers there, but still a very, very cool weapon. And let's be fair, when you're beating on enemies with a gold-plated baseball bat, it's only going to be fun. That looked like it hurt, and again, it's very stylized and stylish, suits Cyberpunk very, very well. So yeah, maybe not as let's say, I don't want to say the word flashy, but maybe not as iconic as we were looking for, but in my eyes, very much worth having, just to say you've got it, and it does do some big damn for those blunt weapon wielders out there in the world. So yeah, let's move on to the next one. Now, to be able to get our hands on this next weapon, we begin at the start of one of my favourite side missions in Cyberpunk 2077, aptly named I Fought the Law. Full disclosure, I'm going to butcher these next two quests as they're so long and we have a video to make, right? So let's crack on. It starts with an out of the blue phone call from Elizabeth Perez asking you to meet. Once there, her and her husband take you on a little ride and ask you to investigate the death of the previous mayor. Whilst looking into the information more closely, your findings bring you into contact with a detective named River Ward, and this guy is the whole reason we are doing this quest. From there, you and River go down a winding road of clues, secrets and betrayal until you find out that it was actually Detective River's own partner who covered up the death of the now deceased mayor. River is distraught, you offer him some advice, let the Perez couple know and be on your way. And a few days pass after the encounter and Mr. River contacts you and lets you know that he needs some urgent help. After meeting you, you find out that River's nephew has been kidnapped, and although the guy who did it has been found, his nephew has not. This once again leads you down a winding road of clues, secrets and betrayal until you finally realise that actually he's being kept captive in some random barn somewhere, and after some investigation you find out where that barn exactly is. Once you get to the barn, you begin to look for clues, and whilst doing so you stumble upon a secret hole in the wall in the criminal's office upstairs in his house. Once you get it open, there on the side is the iconic weapon and the whole reason we did all these quests, the interestingly named Tinkerbell. I think my detective days are now over. I'm retiring. Now once again, CD Projekt Red have really made the looks of this weapon perfect to suit the kind of quest that you've been doing to obtain it. Obviously it looks like a castle prod, very much used by, well, I don't want to, assume, but used by farmers and the like out there on animals to get them to do things. And the weapon itself fully looks like that. You can see it obviously looks like the cattle prod with the electric at the end. And, they've again catered this weapon to suit that kind of aesthetic. So you've got the electrical damage of plus 251 to 307. You've got a 20% chance to shock. And also it says here in the white text, deals less damage but with a chance to knock out a target using a strong attack, which again, to kind of emulate the fact that when you get shocked by a weapon like that, it sometimes knocks you out, and maybe linked to the quests where the criminal himself maybe knocked out his victims with this weapon. Now of course it's a blunt weapon, which again, I think personally the blunt weapons really have got a better look in this game than the sadly the blades, because they've done more with them. I guess in terms of when you think of a blunt weapon anyway, you can kind of do more with them. But as you see there, the electric damage and just the general hit is great. This character is a blade user but still gets that damage out of the weapon. But yeah, excellent choice. Fun kind of quest as well. It's long-winded but it's worth it at the end in my opinion. And again, just having these kind of diverse weapons in your arsenal depending on your build, it's always fun. So yeah, let's move on to the next one. Now for the last weapon on the list, we bring you to the very end of the main story missions in Cyberpunk 2077. But thankfully, we don't have to spoil too much if you haven't finished the game yet. I wouldn't want to be the guy that shows you all the endings or anything like that. I believe it's better to be pure and do them yourselves. Essentially though, after a brief chat with Hanako Arasaka, you're presented with 4 alternative options to accomplish the same goal of trying your best to cure your illness that is wreaking havoc on your mind, or as some call it, Mr. Johnny Silverhand. In the interest of time, in the interest of obtaining a badass melee weapon, we are only going to focus on one of these options, that option being letting Mr. Silverhand himself take control of your body and plot a plan with the Afterlife icon and Night City legend, Rogue. The plan itself is both elaborate and simple at the same time. Using a Militech tactical bomber, we wanted to shoot a hole in the Arasaka building. We get spotted, and after some slick maneuvers from our resident pilot, we end up diving from the bomber, surviving due to the anti-grav boots that we have equipped, and well, that's all we kind of need to know for the weapon location at least. Once landed, a little chit chat happens to check everyone is okay, and to our right, sat nicely leaning on the rock, is the Caretaker's Cyberspade, my personal favourite weapon in the game. We're not going to go through any more of the quest, or, we have skipped a couple of pieces as well. Again, don't want to get as much spoilers given away on the ending, so yeah, let's see how the weapon works. Now, when you probably find that you're going to pick up a spade, you think to yourself, what is Crafty smoking? But at the end of the day, this is probably the best iconic weapon in the game, definitely for anyone that wants to use blunt weapons or anyone that's into melee weapons in general. As you can see, the spade itself is a great visual. You've got that kind of blade-ish shape on the side due to it being broken, and the specs itself are awesome. So you've got that big physical damage boost, a stamina cost reduction while attacking, which is great, big crit chance, big crit damage, and then 20% bleeding chance as well. As it says in the white text, resembles an ordinary shovel from a different dimension. Now this again is really good from CD Projekt Red, because they're again relating back to their other things they've got going on, i.e. The Witcher 3. This weapon itself is a reference to the Caretaker, a boss that's found in The Witcher 3 for those Witcher 3 lovers out there. So again, another thing I love about what they're doing with Cyberpunk and just their games in general. If you're fans of the studio itself, you really love, you're really going to get some benefit out of these Easter eggs. And in terms of the weapon being used, it absolutely slaps. Power hits on them are a one-shot kill. Again, I know I'm a level 50 character on this one, but I've got no blunt weapon buffs or attributes used or anything like that. It's just pure damage from the weapon itself. It might look slow, but in general it really does do the business, and I fully recommend, I know we didn't go into massive detail on the actual quest line itself because I didn't want to spoil too much, but I do recommend the fact that you can do all the endings in Cyberpunk. I do recommend doing this one to pick up this loot because this weapon itself is super fun to use in the game. But yeah, there we go. There's the spade. Now, before we leave you, we did want to do an honorable mention to one of the probably most unique, iconic weapons in the game, and that is the one that's aptly named Sir John Falstaff. Now, this is a new-looking baseball bat that Cyberpunk has brought into the universe. Its mission itself is very secret and probably not for the eyes of YouTube. All I'll say is make sure you do what she says. Make sure you say yes, enjoy the ride, and make use of the bat. As you can see in the white text, use as per instructions. Remember to get consent. Sir John Falstaff, well worth your time. So there it is, ladies and gentlemen. That is our top unique / iconic melee weapons in Cyberpunk 2077. We tried to offer some diversity in our choices, as well as some weapons that you may have missed or not thought about using before. That being said, I know there is many more amazing melee weapons out there, so do not hesitate to share your favorites in the comments down below and any tips and tricks you may have to obtaining them. We do our best to respond to every comment made, so thank you in advance for leaving one. We also want to thank you for the unbelievable support we've had over these last 3 months. We're quickly approaching 500 subscribers, and that is all down to your unbelievable support. So thank you from the bottom of my heart, the bottom of our heart. We really appreciate everything, support-wise that you give us. The next couple of months are going to be big for the channel as we pivot slightly from Cyberpunk and move on to covering a variety of games alongside the current content that we already make. So there's going to be a lot more on the channel, a lot more for you to enjoy, and we hope you like it. If you want to see what's up next, then head on over to our socials and give us a follow. The info will be on screen right now and in the description down below. Now, if you like the video, please give it a big thumbs up, share with your friends if you think they'll benefit from it, subscribe for more content like this one, and remember, don't be a gonk.